Do you generate templated documents in your business? Offer letters, membership agreements, purchase orders, or the like? Most businesses do, and setting up those processes to work with your technology can be more hassle than it would first appear. Or at least this has been the case, as now, with AI in SharePoint getting a structured document generation feature in preview, this has suddenly been made much simpler. Keep watching to find out what this feature can do and how to use it. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant who specialises in AI adoption for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're interested in keeping up with AI advancements, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and drop this video a like so you get to see more from me in the future. And if you're interested in working with me, check out the links down in the video description to get in contact. There are lots of different ways to template documents in Microsoft 365, from mail merge through to Power Platform. And despite this being a business need for which there have been user-addressable technology solutions for more than 30 years, the reliable creation of outputs based on templates continues to be something that takes up more time than it should across many businesses and for many users. With structured document generation, Microsoft isn't reinventing the wheel at all, but just doing what it increasingly tends to be doing with Copilot innovation, identifying a problem area where the capabilities of generative AI make sense as a helper, and slipping those capabilities into a new workflow that connects together other Microsoft 365 ecosystem technologies. In this regard, if this is an approach Microsoft can get right, it opens the potential for the value of Copilot to be on an altogether different trajectory than its competitors, as it's already got 50 years of work in building the tools AI can now seamlessly fit together. Structured document generation builds together SharePoint, including custom metadata, Word-based modern templates, and forms to give you an end-to-end template-to-document tool flow using submissions from users for template field content. Where Copilot fills a gap is the legwork in taking a document that looks like a form and actually cutting into it the form fields that make it into a form that you could use in SharePoint. This isn't a big AI lift, but it's a logical place for AI to be of value in workflows where more traditional deterministic capabilities actually make a lot of sense for most of the steps. This new capability is in preview. It is part of the AI in SharePoint preview. So to use it, you need Anthropic models to be available in your environment to get the best experience, and you need to turn on AI in SharePoint by enabling the Knowledge Agent preview using PowerShell, either for some sites or for all sites. As with all previews, it's important to remember that things may not work as expected, so you shouldn't rely on them in the same way you would production features. To get started with this capability, I'm going to use this offer letters document library in my HR SharePoint site. As with all my videos, these demos are for demonstrative purposes and never use real data. I've already added a document to this library I want to use as the template for this form. In this case, I've added some text placeholders, but that isn't entirely necessary. Copilot will identify places it thinks field data might be useful as part of this process based on content understanding, not on having defined form fields in the text. So even a document that you've used that you'd like to turn into a template could work if the places where you might want fillable fields are clearly understandable. We're going to use the Forms button to create a new form in this library and then select Document Generation Form as the type. You can then select the document you want to turn into a form, in this case the document I already added to the library, but you can get this from elsewhere too. And when you click on Create Form, we then go through the only component of this workflow that truly relies on generative AI, the identification of fields and creation of the template. And after a short wait, it'll show you the form fields it's identified. If all this looks good, then you can just click Continue, but in most cases you'll probably want to edit the template in Word. And in Word you get a view of the form's fields. You can go through and make edits. For example, here the AI identified a few inputs that really just need to be fixed text. And if I go ahead and delete these, I can just return to the prior text that was there. You can see that different fields have been created as different data types, such as single line of text or multiple lines of text, or date and time. And if you want to change one of those data types, for example here, I can set salary amount to a number field, I can do so. I can also determine whether fields are required or not. Once I'm happy with the template and publish it, I get returned to SharePoint to decide where I should store my responses. You just create a new folder, and from there I can go ahead and customize my form, just as I would the normal form controls in SharePoint. Now do bear in mind, this is the Forms experience that lives in SharePoint, not the full Microsoft Forms. So there are some restrictions here, the most important of which to understand is these forms are only addressable by internal users. This isn't a new restriction, but it is something that hasn't changed by this update. In settings, you can determine whether the form is accepting responses and whether the output you get is a PDF version of the form. Extremely useful if you want to have a fixed output from this process. Then, when you're happy with it, you can distribute the form by sharing the link as you normally would. Then if we jump over to the form and fill it out, you can see that it looks and behaves exactly as you'd expect the form to. The only difference is that when you return to SharePoint, in the folder you specified is the output. But that's not all. In your document library, if you head to the view created with your template name, you can see the entire form entry. You'd be forgiven though if you look at this and think it doesn't seem quite new. We've had modern templates for a while. We've had syntax content assembly too. All these components that we're seeing in SharePoint are essentially being reused from elsewhere in order to pull together this structured document generation capability. That's certainly not to say it's not useful. It's just to point out that the AI component here isn't heavy lifting the workflow end to end. It's doing the part that many human workers would get stuck on to kickstart the adoption of largely existing technology. In terms of existing technology, that AI component does have limitations. You can see here that one of the features of templating in Word is to add conditional sections. This is very useful, and perhaps one of the most powerful capabilities that make templates so suitable for many workloads, but also makes them feel like kind of a pain to work out how to set up. But if I take a template starter that has those conditional sections built in, the AI field extraction tool does not find them. It just returns much the same single field by field extraction, and I'm left to fill in the conditional options. This is somewhat frustrating on two fronts. First, the models are absolutely smart enough to do this. So this is a tool and UX limitation in how Microsoft has decided to run through this process rather than a hard AI limitation. I will say though that this is a preview. And while I guess it's correct to include reference to conditional sections on the Learn page connected with this, it's a workaround for something the AI aspect doesn't do, rather than something users should have to worry about creating themselves. That said, I like the approach here where Microsoft blends AI with existing features to create something that is more addressable by most users. It also makes sense to push the use of features that build more structured data understanding into Microsoft 365, and particularly with the rise of AI in SharePoint and SharePoint metadata access for Copilot. The more we can do to capture descriptive information when data is created, the more useful that data is likely to be for our AI tools into the future. Some things to note here. First, you need a Copilot license to create the forms, not to use them. Which means that everyone in SharePoint is now essentially getting access to paid syntax features for free if someone with a Copilot license decides to set something up like this, though we'll see if that sticks beyond preview. As I've already said, this is targeted at internal use cases, no equivalent for the general Microsoft Forms yet, and last, you don't need access to the underlying document library to use this. Nor will you be granted access to the resulting file unless through some subsequent automation. A really high value and easy add to this for Microsoft, in my opinion, would be to add a share file to submitter option on the form setup so that certain types of documents can both be controlled and be self-service. Another place where this has a big opportunity for improvement is allowing you to customize the resulting file name. Right now you cannot, and while for some use cases this would be fine, for something like a purchase order, it would probably be pretty frustrating. But we should get real about where this really fits. It's a neat point to make that this gives you syntax features essentially for free. and I stand by that in substance. But practically speaking, this isn't the same intended use case. No organisation at scale is going to use this approach to build assets like invoices or offer letters. They already have systems to do this. That's not where the template problem lives. It lives with small teams that use the same document outline a few times each week to generate something that has value, but not enough value to spend real time learning how to better standardise it. Unless you are a really small business, the list of document types Microsoft suggests you could turn this to sounds pretty compelling, but absolutely are not the things you should be touching with this approach. That said, you probably have lots of documents where this approach is exactly what you need. Which should bring us to the honest assessment. Is this the most exciting new AI feature to arrive in Microsoft 365 recently? Absolutely not. But I do think it's the type of AI feature that will make Copilot or AI in SharePoint or whatever they're deciding to call it this week indispensable for those organisations already embedded in Microsoft 365. There's lots of really useful technology Microsoft has already built where the main barrier to seeing value for users is adoption. If we could shortcut that adoption cycle by using AI to gloss over the cracks, this seems like a good long-term approach both for Microsoft and their customers. By comparison, competitors like OpenAI might build capabilities with less cracks from the outset, but they need to build everything from scratch in a race where Microsoft got a half-century head start. Let me know what you think of this new capability down in the comments. I hope this video was useful to you. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next one, bye bye.